Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros. This is the Fantasy Football Podcast. It is me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia, and it's time to look ahead to the waiver wire for Week 7 in the NFL. To help me, of course, my patty cakes, Pat Fitzmaurice and DBRO, Derek Brown, the king of bros. We're here for you on the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and leave your comments below. Who are you picking up this week? We've got a lot of controversy right at the top of the show, folks. I'm going to get into it in just a second, but before we do, Pat, can the Cowboys win a game at home ever again? Because that was absolutely embarrassing. What a terrible afternoon again for America's team.
What a crazy stat that they have been trailing by 15 or more points in 4 straight home games dating back to last year's playoffs. Some of us were silly enough to bet on the Cowboys as home underdogs yesterday and don't feel great about it. So, let's change the subject, Joe. No,
I don't want to talk about my betting week. It was not good. It was under 500 for the first time in a couple weeks. No bueno, but it's all right. We get back on the horse. But I think what encapsulated the moment the most, I don't know if you saw this on social media, there was unfortunately a Cowboys fan, a young lady who had gotten ill at some point from drinking too much, and in the middle of the corridors of the walkway was hurling her guts out, and a guy in a David Montgomery jersey was dancing around her doing the gritty. That, to me, encapsulated what you saw in this game. It's an unbelievable moment in time. Thank you, social media. You're undefeated. Depot, we had a couple rookie QBs step up yesterday. Little Drake May throwing touchdown passes for the Patriots, something I haven't seen this year from the Patriots. And also Spencer Rattler for your Saints. Any thoughts on the two rookie QBs and their performance?
So Rattler looked about like I thought he would. Had a few turnovers, some miscues. Todd Bowles blitzed the ever-loving crap out of him. I was not expecting to come on here Monday morning and own an L, but I will definitely do it. Drake May played really well, considering all of the things. And
he took some shots, though. He did take some shots, as we said he would.
I was really hard on the Patriots organization last week, and I'm not going to back off of it fully. Like, I don't think this is a good situation to put him into. But this was never a shot against the talent that Drake May has. It was more concern about what could happen, and he did take some shots, but overall, I was surprised by how well he was able to play, considering the weapons around him, considering the offensive line and the matchup in front of him. So, I mean, boys, he almost made my streamer of the week for quarterback, considering the matchup next week. So, very impressed by May in his first start.
Yeah, and there's actually a Patriot that we want to add this week from the waiver wire, if you could believe it. I know, stay tuned. Amazing things are going to happen. Before we get to the waiver wire pickup of the week for Week 7, which is where the controversy lies, we just want to remind everybody, free stuff. Everybody loves free stuff here. And we're giving away now the Trophy Smack Ultimate Championship Belt. It's gone. We're already giving it away to Doubs, D-U-B-B-Z. I can only imagine that's your legal name, Doubs. So, Doubs, get in touch with us at customer support over at mailbag@fantasypros.com. Again, that's mailbag@fantasypros.com with your proof of subscription to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel, and we'll get that shipped out to you right away. Again, Doubs, D-U-B-B-Z. Congratulations, you're the big winner. Now, when one giveaway goes away, another one takes its place here, just like on the waiver wire. See, that's what happens. A player gets hurt, we pick up somebody else. Well, we've got another Trophy Smack giveaway for you, and I love this one. This is one of my favorites. It's the Golden Toilet Trophy giveaway. And if you want a chance to win the ultimate symbol of fantasy football defeat, the Golden Toilet Trophy, courtesy of our good friends at Trophy Smack, the #1 destination for epic fantasy football trophies, can be yours. What do you have to do to get the Golden Toilet? Well, all you got to do is subscribe to the channel, ring the bell till it goes ding, and drop a comment below this week, and somebody's going to get that bad boy. Again, the Golden Toilet Trophy from our good pals over at Trophy Smack. So let's get to the controversy here, gentlemen. Waiver wire ad of the week was kind of tough this week. There was a couple contenders, then some people going out on buys, so that made it complicated. But I'm going with practice here, because last week the practice was, hey, Tank Bigsby's looking good. If something happens to Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby could look really good potentially for your fantasy assets, or for somebody to even trade away and not just even play on your own roster. So this week I'm going to go back down to that well. Tyler Allgeier of the Atlanta Falcons is rostered in just 40% of leagues, which I think is actually kind of low. Now, I understand some of the productivity came in garbage time, 18 attempts, 105 yards, and a touchdown. But we've seen him work in on this offense. We've seen him also just a couple years ago have 1,000 yards rushing with this offensive line that we have in Atlanta that's been really good running the football. And we could be one unfortunate circumstance with Bijan Robinson away from Allgeier being the guy in the backfield. So This is more just about acquiring assets and depth at this point. And I think Allgeier has minimal flex appeal, but I think he's got asset appeal. I know this is, again, a take that, we kind of went back and forth on. Pat, I want to go to you because I know you were kind of not excited this morning when you woke up and you saw him as the waiver wire ad of the week. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, so I do think Tyler Allgeier is one of the premier handcuff running backs that you can have. And we can debate the merits of handcuffing. And I think it's more of a viable strategy in some leagues than others, deeper leagues. If you have short benches, I know DBRO and I are generally not advocates of handcuffing until the Thanksgiving season, stuffing and cuffing. And like in a lot do where,
so
maybe
weird traditions at your house, Fitzy.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, I've adopted that in my house too, so don't besmirch it.
In leagues where you've got maybe 16 or 18 player rosters, I don't know if it's better to have a handcuff to your Bijan Robinson or to take a shot at another running back situation or wide receiver situation and hope to sort of get compound dividends from different guys who are playable each week rather than dedicating 2 roster spots to a single position on a single team. So I do think maybe Tyler Allgeier has some standalone value in easier matchups, and he certainly had one against the Panthers yesterday. They do seem to prefer running Tyler Allgeier in between the tackles rather than Bijan Robinson. So maybe against teams that really give it up in the inside running game, like the Panthers do. And yet, Joe, yesterday, that was not one of the games I was following closely, Atlanta, Carolina, but I was checking it periodically because I did bet the over on Tyler Allgeier rushing yards at 37.5. Checked in early in the fourth quarter and he was at 38. And went back to watching other games, checked the box score again, like maybe 20 minutes later, and all of a sudden he was at 105. So obviously he had a really good series. I'm going to go back and watch that game and see what happened. So yeah, I mean, he should be rostered in most leagues, unless it's a league where your benches are short, like 4 or 5 players. He should absolutely be rostered, but I don't know if I'm going to empty the full clip with my fab budget for a guy I'm probably not starting in week 7.
Yeah, I think that's the whole point we're making too, is like, it's more just the price enforcing perhaps of the fact that he's only 40% rostered, which I think DBRO it's kind of shocking, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the Braylon Allen correlation of a few weeks ago. That's how this feels.
But hold on a second. If you're going to say that, that's tough because Braylon Allen never had a 1,000-yard rushing season in the NFL, and Tyler Allgeier has. So I think we got to give him a little bit more respect than a 20-year-old running back. That's
you've never had a 1,000-yard season in the NFL, and I still have respect to
Yes, but nobody's picking me up off the waiver wire this week.
That's pretty fair. The way that I'll look at it is, in most weeks, and the reason I bring up Braylon Allen is because in most weeks, Tyler Allgeier is just a high-end handcuff. He's going to get 30 to 40% of the snaps. And in positive game scripts or positive rushing matchups, that's where you see maybe his rushing gets elevated, because Bijan Robinson is not, to your point, Joe, Bijan Robinson is clearly not 100%. And this is not a team that wants to ramp him up. Like, he got the high leverage usage. He was the clear guy at the very beginning of the game. And it wasn't until about the fourth quarter that we saw Allgeier getting a late run, because the Falcons are like, okay, you're not 100%. We still want to run and salt the clock away. And if we're going to do that, we don't want to get you up into the 25, 30 touch region. So we're just going to give extra volume to Allgeier. But to your point, Joey, these next few matchups, I mean, Seattle Seahawks, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Dallas Cowboys, New Orleans Saints, Denver Broncos. Like, there's a few matchups in there. Toss in even the Chargers after that. There's a few matchups in there where we can expect, okay, they're either a positive rushing matchup for their ground game, or there are a few games there. I mean, come on, against Denver, maybe the Chargers, maybe again against the Cowboys, they get blown out again. Mm-hmm. Those are a few scenarios where you could see Tyler Allgeier get into that 12 to 15 carry mark late in games, if those games go how some of the other games for those teams have gone already this season. So I think there's merit in both sides here. Am I enamored to go out and pick up Tyler Allgeier right now? No. Is there merit that he should be rostered even higher? Yes. Is there positive game matchups in the upcoming schedule? Yes. So I think I'm somewhere around and I'll toss this back to you boys and see 7 to 8% of your fab, somewhere around there, looking depending on how much you have left. I think that's plenty enough aggressive. In some leagues, maybe you're only spending 5 to 6%. I mean, is that too much or not enough, guys?
Well, I think it is. I think it makes sense. I just think, again, from a depth standpoint, the way running backs are, falling all over the place around us, you can't have enough depth there at that position. Now, for me personally, Christian Watson is the guy that I want the most off the waiver wire this week. Yeah. But again, you could start making those conversations about, well, where is he in the pecking order? And then Wicks got her, and then Romeo Doubs had a couple touchdown catches too. So there's a lot of weirdness there with that Green Bay offense to unpack. Pat, Watson was the number one for me, and theoretically, but from a disciplined fantasy football standpoint, Allgeier seems like more of the priority potentially because of the position he plays. But what are your thoughts here on the waiver wire pickup of the week, and if the fab you want to spend, if any, on Allgeier?
Yeah, I'd be willing to spend a few bucks. Obviously, if I were a Bijan owner, I would consider it. But there are other running backs who are fairly widely available who I think I would rather have this week, and a couple of wide receivers.
Maybe the key word is this week, too. We're going to get to those names in just a second. Before we do, the roller coaster of the NFL season is moving right along, and it promises to be a full month of tricks, treats, and, of course, touchdowns. And DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is the number one place to bet touchdowns. And if you are ready to place your first bet, try betting on something simple like the touchdown scorer prop there. We talk about it on the Betting Pro shows all the time. We give you some touchdown calls there every single week on the prop show, so go check that out on our YouTube channel. And go to DraftKings Sportsbook app right now to make your picks. Score big with DraftKings Sportsbook, the number one place to bet touchdowns. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. Use the promo code FantasyPros, that's one word, FantasyPros, and new customers get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. So back to the opportunity running backs here, Pat. Ty Chandler with Aaron Jones potentially out this week, even though they just had a bye. 35% rostered. Tyrone Tracy, 53% rostered. He's out there for the New York Giants. We don't know when Devin Singletary returns healthy. Isaac Guerendo with Jordan Mason having that AC joint issue, but that seems, from what everything Deepak said, to be something that it seems like Mason might trend towards playing, especially since they have the extra time. And then Jalen Wright, 21% rostered too. So there's a cluster of guys here. Wright looked really good in that last game. We saw him. We talked about sliding him through the waiver wire, right, just to see as an insurance, real cheap. Well, it doesn't look like a lot of people listen because he's just 21% rostered. So Chandler seems like the no-brainer here, Pat, to me, because we're getting probably at least another week, maybe two. Interesting matchup this week ahead for the Minnesota Vikings, too. So let's talk about Chandler, who I'm guessing is the guy that you were alluding to at the last break.
Yeah, he is the running back I would most want to acquire this week if he's available. I believe they have said Aaron Jones is week to week. So it was a hip injury. Aaron Jones was not always the fastest healer when he was in Green Bay. And part of that is maybe the Packers organization, very conservative about bringing players back from injury. But with his hip injury, I doubt he plays this week. And I think he's probably iffy for week 8. So, this week, Chandler goes against the Lions. Good run defense, maybe a little less tough after losing Aiden Hutchinson. Really unfortunate loss for the Lions, but not an easy matchup. Still, though, with a running back who has dual run catch value and is going to presumably be getting a huge percentage of the running back snaps for the Vikings, I'm still going to have Chandler ranked in my top 25 at running back in the weekly rankings this week, no doubt. So
would you be more aggressive, Pat, if you had Aaron Jones? Would you be what's the premium? Because I'm sure that's what a lot of people out there are thinking. They're saying, oh, I've got Aaron Jones. Chandler, maybe I didn't have enough space with bye weeks last week to pick him up. Now I have to pick him up, or maybe I was just being optimistic. How aggressive would you be if you had Jones? Because you got to pay a premium on top of that, right?
Yeah, if Aaron Jones were my running back 2, and say it was a fall off after that, like a major fall off down to I don't know, Tank Bigsby or someone like that, who doesn't have a firm foothold or is at best sort of a platoon running back, then I would maybe go with 30% on Chandler to plug that hole for, possibly up to 2 or 3 weeks. But just for the peace of mind, I think right now, knowing Aaron Jones is not fully healthy and who knows when he will be.
All right, so Chandler, Tracy, Guerendo, Wright, who sticks out to you here in this cluster? Is it just as simple as Chandler for you too, DBRO?
Yeah, I mean, right now it's Chandler because I do think that Devin Singletary comes back, or this would be runaway Tyrone Tracy for me. But I do think that Devin Singletary gets back this week, and that's going to push Tyrone Tracy back into a Ty Chandler-esque role when Aaron Jones is healthy. But Aaron Jones, I mean, Ty Chandler is definitely the number one guy, only because of the volume. I mean, the matchup is god-awful against the Lions. I mean, yes, no Aiden Hutchinson. Last year when he got the start, 8 carries for 17, got saved by a touchdown. Ty Chandler could end up with a similar stat line, maybe not as gross, but you're really hoping that he gets a touchdown. So probably, again, like Pat's saying, going to be an RB3 for me, despite the volume this week. But if you need a plug-and-play guy, it's definitely Chandler. I was hoping, well, not hoping, but I was expecting that we would, kind of come in here and talk about Isaac Guerendo. But now, like you talked about, Joe, Jordan Mason looks like he's going to play through this, or he's going to be back this week. So Guerendo is a player that we were walking out of that game and saying, okay, Guerendo is probably going to be the top ad. He's going to be the guy. And now with the news about Mason, well, he's probably going to play. So that definitely, dims the light on Guerendo a lot.
And of course, things are always moving around. We have Monday Night Football too. So we always have the live stream here on the channel in case you don't watch it. You should be, because Derek and I do Waiver Wire Tuesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern here, right on the channel, where we take your questions about Waiver Wire, but also we update you based on more news that we get. We record this early Monday because we try to get out there before everybody else, so you can get out there before everybody else and make the right moves. But it's an ever-evolving situation in the NFL. We know that every single week. Back from injury, but not back on a lot of rosters. Jaylen Warren, one of your favorite things, DBRO, 41% rostered. I know he didn't do too much yesterday. I know Najee had the big run of the game, and it was a lot of Justin Fields running in for some touchdowns too, which I personally really enjoyed. But Jaylen Warren, this guy would be an absolute ad for me. I think he does start to work his way back into the good graces here, hopefully with the health coming around as well. Your thoughts on adding him this week and how aggressive you should be?
I think 5 to 7% if he's out there. I put him in the same range as talking about Tyler Allgeier. I mean, there are similar correlations that we can draw, or paths that we can draw between both these players. If anything, I know Najee finally had a good game last week, but we can also go to the box scores of every other game before last week and say, not great returns. So Warren is going to step immediately back into this backfield like he did this week. I think the healthier he gets, because he's still not 100%. Like, I'm old enough to remember, boys, whenever the beginning of this week, Mike Tomlin was like, oh, Jaylen Warren's doubtful. And then we go from Jaylen Warren is doubtful to he doesn't even have an injury designation walking into the game. So, okay. But looking at his role moving forward, Najee has not been impressive. Jaylen Warren has the juice. The healthier he gets, he could take over more of this backfield. And the schedule does kind of open up in the next few weeks. Like, I know they get the Jets next week, but then they get the Giants and the Commanders, the Ravens, the Browns, the Bengals, the Browns again. Like, there's a lot of positive matchups on the ground for the Steelers upcoming. So if Jaylen Warren can eat into this backfield even more and make this a 50-50 share, and Jaylen Warren can make some noise. So I will put him, I think you could easily make the same, he's not coming off a big game, guys, but you can make the same kind of at least path to why should we pick them up as the same thing as Tyler Allgeier.
Well, Pat, I think what's so interesting here is that Warren didn't do much, came back. People might be out of sight, out of mind with him, and the Najee big number, which is really mostly just one big moment for him.
One run.
Yesterday, let's be honest. I think this is like the perfect storm here where you can get him at a value, don't you think?
Yeah, that might drop the price on him a little bit. And the interesting thing is, Joe, I thought Warren would maybe be used lightly in his first game back, especially in a game where the Steelers led pretty comfortably against the Raiders throughout. Jaylen Warren only played 6 fewer snaps than Najee Harris yesterday. Like, this was very close to 50-50 usage. And I think Jaylen Warren was objectively better than Najee Harris last year. So this is definitely a situation worth monitoring. I think it's going to be something close to 50-50. Let me ask you guys this. Would you rather have Jaylen Warren or Tyrone Tracy off waivers this week? Because Tracy has looked absolutely fantastic. And I know early in the season, Devin Singletary had something pretty close to workhorse usage right out of the gate. I don't think that happens when he gets back. I think it's going to be more like a 60-40. I think Tracy has earned it.
I think Tracy, to tell you the truth, and the thing I was going to say, I think DBRO's instincts were right about Tracy too, which is if you get Singletary coming back and people start dropping him, or if he becomes an asset then that feels like he's going away, I would be trading for him. like I said, I want to acquire all the running back depth I possibly can have before I get to Thanksgiving, because I don't know if we're going to make it to Halloween at the running back position the way things are going. But DBRO, that's a great question. What's your answer?
I think it's a similar bet. So it really comes down to which offense do you want to bet on. So I would post out similar bids on both players. Well, I think I could see the 40% for Tracy. I put him closer to about 35% of the work, maybe a little bit more, because he wasn't even getting that much before Singletary went out. But considering what he's shown, you could see this evolve into more of a committee like Pat's talking about, where if nothing else, I mean, we know Tyrone Tracy's talent as far as a receiver. So could he carve out more of this backfield in that ilk and saying, okay, he's getting most of the pass game work. So then he's at 40%, and maybe towards the stretch run, it's 50-50. So no, I don't disagree. I think it really comes down to you put out similar bids. Say Jaylen Warren and Tyrone Tracy are both available in your league, because that's possible. If that's the case, I'm throwing out 7 to 8% bids, and whoever I get is whoever I get. That's the way I would attack it.
You're not committing. You said you wanted to bet. It depends on which offense. So you might bet on Arthur Smith over Brian Dable. Is that what you're telling me?
No, I can't do that. That's true. That's true, Pat. Putting my feet to the fire, but that's true. Yeah, it would definitely be Brian Daboll over Arthur Smith. George Pickens says hi.
Yeah, let's make some room here for some of these running backs we want to add. Cam Akers fits with Mixon back. You could drop him, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and Trey Sermon, same thing, DBRO? Is it time to just kind of move on
same
there?
thing. Same
All
thing.
right, so
I mean, Tyler Goodson has arguably been the better player in that backfield the last 2 weeks with no JT.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the wide receivers before we dig too deep in there. Look, there's nothing better than NFL football live. And if you want a chance to make that kind of memory and go to these games, if you didn't have season tickets, a great way to do it, especially for some of these teams that are losing. Those tickets are going on some sites to get sold. And there's an opportunity for you to go to these games, take your friends, take your loved ones to a game, and use the Game Time app to do it. It's the best way to get tickets for any college football, NFL game, or just any concert or comedy show, theater event, you name it. They've got it over at Game Time, and it's a really easy way to get the tickets you want without all the extra fees, without all the extra nonsense. You can see your seat in the panoramic view right from the app before you buy it, and they'll give you the lowest price guaranteed, or they'll credit you 110% of the difference. That is a company that knows what they're doing. So if you're tired of the fees, tired of the nonsense, want to get to the game in an easy way, the Game Time app is for you. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the Game Time app right now. Create an account. Use that promo code FantasyPros to get $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms do apply, but create your account. Redeem the code FantasyPros, FANTASYPROS, for $20 off your first order. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. It's also time to add wide receivers. And let's start with the Packers. Pat, come on. It's Packer time. Let's do it. Christian Watson, I said last week, and I've said it on many shows, I'm just gritting my teeth, waiting, trying to be patient, not drop him because he's killing me in all these leagues that I have him, and I have him everywhere. We finally got a Christian Watson sighting yesterday. Not a lot of catches, but the big play Christian Watson that, again, why I coveted him so much in this offense. Unfortunately, we also had not one, but 2 touchdowns from Romeo Doubs, and one of them was a chuck and duck kind of weird situation there, which I don't know if we could buy into that too much. Romeo Doubs is 51% rostered. Christian Watson is 41% rostered. I think that's a travesty that, like, Christian Watson is 10% less than him. Pat, you're Mr. Packer. They get the Texans this week. Let's break it down.
Yeah, in fairness, I think maybe the low rostership for Christian Watson was injury related. And I think a lot of people were surprised that he was able to come back to practice and play in week 6. Mm-hmm. So I would suspect that at this time a week from now, Joe, we will not be talking about Christian Watson. He is going to be rostered in well over half of all leagues, probably closer to 70-80%. And like we've seen the big play potential that he has with his sub 4.4 speed and his big 6'3", 6'4" frame. Like, this guy can score from anywhere on the field. And like, if I can't have Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, I think, is the next most valuable Packer pass catcher. And it is going to be erratic from week to week because Jaden Reed seems to get his every week as far as targets, catches. And Tucker Kraft seems like, well, didn't really work out for Tucker Kraft in week 6. But for the most part, he's been getting a steady diet of targets, at least by the standards of tight ends. Then it's going to be kind of hit and miss with the rest of the receivers every week. But man, Watson gets those high value deep targets, and this guy makes big plays. So yeah, you're going to get some dud games from him, but you're also going to get some blow up games.
DBRO, what's your take on these two wide receivers here for the Packers? Just 2 weeks ago, Romeo Doubs wasn't on the field. Nobody, everything was sour. All of a sudden now you get a correction there. Is that something you're buying into, or is it Christian Watson that has your attention like me?
I mean, if I got both of them sitting out there on waivers in a league, it's definitely Watson over Doubs. I like both of the guys, so I'm willing to, like with Doubs, you don't want to be point chasing too much. But again, like Pat talked about, this is going to be a very productive offense. This is going to be a very productive passing game. And we're going to see the roulette wheel continue to turn for these wide receivers. So when the matchup is right, it was last week versus a lot of single high for Romeo Doubs. He's going to have big games. And so 6 to 8% of your fab for Romeo Doubs. Watson, I'm willing to go up to like 12 to 15% because we talked about it all offseason, guys. Firm believer in the talent. Believe when he is fully right and healthy, he's going to challenge Jaden Reed on a weekly basis for targets. And we know the big play potential is there for Watson. So if I want the true upside out of one of these guys, if they're both available in my league, I'm willing to open up the wallet a lot more for Christian Watson.
Yeah, me too. I think that's the guy I want to be most aggressive for. I think, that Allgeier conversation at the top of the show was about, okay, like good best practices, things that typically will reward you over the long haul. But the sexy pickup this week, to me anyway, is Christian Watson, that big playmaking ability. Let's talk about two guys coming off the bye here. Once again, last week we talked about him. Last week we said, hey, add him for nothing because they're on the bye weeks. And I know last week also some controversy on the show that we had to clear up on the Tuesday live stream because originally JuJu was kind of a pass here for the boys, but he did certainly work more than anybody could have anticipated the last time we saw the Chiefs offense. So JuJu is still just 32% rostered. Jordan Whittington, 23% rostered for the Rams, another guy too that even with Cooper Kupp possibly returning soon, I don't think Whittington's going to go away. I think he has done enough here in this offense to be useful as a flex guy. So, DBRO, let's talk about JuJu, because I know you and Pat were both a little sour on JuJu last time. And, of course, we took heat on it a little bit, and we'll take the L. He was good. The question is it sustainable? That's what matters the most in this week's matchup against the 49ers in the Super Bowl rematch.
Yeah, and I was so sour on it because he wasn't even running 50% of the routes up until the last game that we saw him play. I mean, looking at a 45% route share clip and he's not drawing targets, like, again, I'll stand by that. But did JuJu prove us all wrong last week? Yeah. I mean, he got close to 60% of the routes, got a 20% target share, and really popped off with a big game. My question with JuJu remains, is this, because again, guys, like, I don't want to be prisoner of the moment. We have seen JuJu over previous seasons. How many different seasons? I mean, this is still the guy that the Patriots cut to the street. And this is still the guy that when he was last a Chief, we weren't like, oh my gosh, like we got to be adding JuJu Smith-Schuster. So I think anywhere from 8 to 10%, which could be aggressive for some, I think is warranted because the upside in this offense is there. It is definitively there. But what is it going to look like for the rest of the season? Is JuJu going to remain the number 2 option running alongside Travis Kelce, or does Xavier Worthy make more noise as the rookie gets more games under his belt? That remains to be seen. So while I want to be in the same area code as of aggressiveness for JuJu, I'm not going to go over, I'm not going to go overweight on it. I'm not going to go 12 to 15, 17, 18%, go crazy about it, because I think there is plenty of upside here, but there's also a lot of downside because we've all seen JuJu play football over the last few years.
Pat, you said something very simple and profound very recently on the show, which is don't chase last week's numbers, right? Is that what we're doing here with JuJu potentially? Or is the necessity just so big with so many, vacancies right now? No Hollywood Brown, no Rashee Rice in that wide receiver group here, a rookie with Xavier Worthy. Is it just the need is far greater and JuJu is still worthy of the ad?
He's absolutely worthy of the ad, and this is not a case of chasing last week's point. And, DBRO said 8 to 10%. I would do that in a league where you have to start 2 wide receivers. If you have to start 3 in a league, I would bid over 20% on JuJu, and I'd rather have him than either of the Packers. And we were tepid on JuJu last week. Hadn't seen how it was going to work with the absence of Rashee Rice and how things were going to go. Right now, rest of season, I would rather have JuJu Smith-Schuster than Xavier Worthy. I absolutely would. We saw JuJu.
That's a huge turnaround, Pat, from last time we talked about JuJu.
We hadn't seen JuJu before. And like what happened with JuJu and his usage, now he is being used in the Rashee Rice role, basically. And it's kind of funny because Rashee Rice was an upgrade over JuJu for the Chiefs last year. Let's not forget that in 2022, JuJu had 78 catches for 933 yards for the Chiefs. And I think that's the kind of value he has now is like, I think he's going to basically produce at a near 1,000-yard pace the rest of the way in this role. Yeah, I mean, we have seen this. I think you can start JuJu every week. Like when I do my rankings this week, I expect to have JuJu inside my top 30 for week 7.
Wow, okay. So wide open
Week
here.
7.
What about Whittington, Pat? Let's talk about Whittington real quick, too. I know the looming Cooper Kupp might have some impact here on people's thoughts about him, but look, I know we were chasing a lot of different guys in this Rams wide receiver group here when Puka went down and Cooper went down, but Whittington seems to be the guy in those deeper leagues. That's the guy that I want on my roster.
Yeah, the Rams whack-a-mole receivers we discussed, and it did seem like before the Rams went on bye, Whittington had become the biggest of the moles to whack. But now I just don't know if there's enough value there, Joe, once we get Cooper Kupp back, and then Puka's hopefully hot on Cooper Kupp's heels coming back. So I'm not spending more than $1 or $2 on Whittington, although I do think he's at least playable, flex worthy for week 7.
Well, look, you're also not going to get Puka back at least for another 2 weeks, at least. So I don't know how that situation's going. Let's talk about some wide receivers playing with some relatively new quarterback situations here. Let's start with Demario Douglas first, 14% rostered. He had himself a day. You can call it a breakout day with Drake Maye, who threw touchdowns, and he is actually moving the chains. It was very unsettling as a Patriots fan after watching what I watched for the first 5 weeks of the season. But week 6 was at least entertaining, which was really nice. It was good. It was good to see. So, DBRO, Douglas has been a guy that you and I have been on for a while. Is this finally the situation now where 14% rostered, it's like, hey, let's buy in now. They get the Jaguars next week in London. Why not? I mean, the Jags certainly can't get out of their own way. So is Douglas a guy that's flex worthy in, week 7?
He definitely is. And I think you can make the case, like Pat's making for JuJu, you can make a case to spend just as much on Pop Douglas. I mean, this is because I want to give a little bit of respect for Pop Douglas. Like even before the Drake Maye sighting last week, this is the third outing this season, the third game. So 50% of his games where he has finished with at least 9 targets, 6 receptions, and 59 receiving yards. So this is not just Haley's Comet for Pop Douglas. He's been producing. We just need to get better quarterback play. And if that's what we're going to see moving forward from the Patriots, I mean, he is going to be a weekly guy that's sitting around wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 territory, and he's staring down a fantastic matchup. Like, I think he is definitely, as much as people want to talk about Jalen Polk and, he's getting more targets and he's getting more run in this offense, I don't know how we can look at the Patriots offense and not say Pop Douglas is their wide receiver 1 right now.
Yeah. Pat, any thoughts you'd like to share about Douglas and what you saw yesterday? Because certainly Drake Maye was looking his way.
Yeah, Douglas, his role sort of enhanced by the fact that Jalen Polk has been bad this year. Like really bad, really inefficient, not good at all. Douglas did play fewer snaps and run fewer routes than Kayshon Boutte, who led the Patriots in both categories yesterday. But we know Douglas is not always on the field in 2 wide receiver sets. The only thing, like I agree with DBRO that Douglas is useful, especially in full point PPR leagues. And I do think he's got like a 4 or 5 catch floor now that it's Drake Maye instead of Brissett and they're opening the offense up a little bit more. But as far as JuJu versus Demario Douglas, I mean, to me, JuJu blows Douglas out of the water. And part of it, DBRO, is that one is tied to Patrick Mahomes and the other is tied to a rookie quarterback who's going to be making his second start this week. And this is coming from a big Drake Maye advocate. Like, I think Drake Maye does positive things for Demario's value vis-a-vis Jacoby Brissett, but I would still much rather have JuJu.
No, that makes a lot of sense to me. I'm good with that one. Let's get into some other guys here. Xavier Legette, again, we talked about the difference with Andy Dalton playing quarterback. Still not great, but certainly improved. Legette's still 41% rostered. Pat, is that surprising to you that it's so low?
A little bit. Yeah, I mean, like, people aren't rushing to get involved in this Panthers passing game, but Legette is just an athletic freak. And maybe he's not a guy I want to put in my lineup right away in week 7, but he's a guy I want on my bench in case he pops. Because this guy, like, he is a special athletic talent.
DBRO, moving on to what I think might be the trap of the week is the 2 touchdown game performance of Gabe Davis, who's 26% rostered. If this doesn't feel like trap, I don't know what does. And I think it's important that we talk about these guys because people will they'll sort in their league who had big days. They'll see 2 touchdowns from Gabe Davis and think, okay, this is a thing. You might not see Gabe Davis do anything for the next 6 weeks. I mean, I'm staying away. DBRO, any thoughts on Gabe Davis here?
This easily could be his best game of the season. Do not spend a single fab dollar on Gabe Davis. Don't do it. You're burning it.
Fool's gold.
Yeah, easily. Easily.
And but you and I all know, right? Come on. They'll see that. People will see it and they'll react to it. And a perfect example of what Pat was talking about recently, don't chase last week. Like, that's not what you want to do. You want to look at last week and look to the future. Let's look to the future, too, to guys to maybe jettison from our rosters. I got that word of the day, toilet paper. Pat sent it to me, too, so I'm using bigger words this week. Jerry Jeudy, a guy that I was never buying into because I can't buy into the Cleveland Browns. I know you guys were trying to stuff the Jerry Jeudy propaganda down my throat. I'm not having it. Refuse to do it. Jerry Jeudy, can we drop him now, boys?
Yes. I mean, we've seen enough of Deshaun Watson play quarterback.
Yeah,
have you seen enough?
Hold on. That's the thing. What if Deshaun Watson isn't playing quarterback? And what if they finally pull the Band-Aid off and put Jameis Winston in, and all of a sudden Jameis Winston is throwing it around the yard 40 or 50 times a game? Like, that is my only reluctance. And I understand that, the bye weeks have hit, although we've only got 2 teams on byes. Injuries are mounting. If you have to cut him. But just realize it could get a lot better for Jerry Jeudy if Jameis Winston is all of a sudden playing.
So, again, though, would you drop Jerry Jeudy for JuJu?
Yes, in a heartbeat.
Okay. So there you go. Would you drop him for Pop Douglas?
I think I would, yes.
I would even drop him for Xavier Legette.
Yeah. I know where you and I stand on the Pop Douglas love. Please. And Jauan Jennings, Pat, is that another guy, too, that we can move on from now as Ayuk and Debo and all the usual suspects are kind of returning into form?
Yep. We got one amazing game, 2 usable games, and now it's time to say bye. It
was fun while it lasted, though, wasn't it, Pat? Come on.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't want to be the guy who, thinks you can stash everyone, but like in leagues where you have deeper benches, the nice thing about Jennings is he's sort of a double handcuff receiver, because if either Debo or Ayuk is to go down, all of a sudden Jennings becomes a guy you might actually want to start. So a little reluctant to get rid of him, but again, I know a lot of people have their backs up against the wall due to all these injuries.
Great point, though, Pat. Fantastic point. Let's get to the streamers for week 7 in the NFL. Let's start with the quarterback position. Pat, who do you want to stream this week at QB?
I want to stream Drake May, Joe, against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who just got lit up by one rookie quarterback in London. How about they get lit up by 2 rookie quarterbacks in London back-to-back? Drake May, we were talking about this a little bit before the show, Joe. I didn't get rich on Drake May's rushing props. I made a little bit of money. If he would have gone over 50 or 60 yards, things would have been really good. But like the rushing upside was still there. He ran for 38 yards, and I was actually disappointed by that result. So, and we know the Jaguars give it up through the air. So Drake May this week against the Jags, he's going to be a top 20 quarterback for me.
Love to hear it. I have a renewed excitement for the Patriots season here. DBRO, who do you want to stream at QB this week?
Red Rocket, baby. We're going to attack the Commanders secondary. It's Andy Dalton for me.
All right, Andy Dalton. DBRO, how about a tight end you want to play this week in week 7?
Cade Otton. I think he's the clear streamer this week. The Ravens have been giving up to tight ends. They're allowing the 2nd most receiving yards and 8th most fantasy points to the position. So as a player who has stepped up, he's the clear wide receiver 3 for the Bucs, and I think he's going to have a good day.
Pat, how about you at tight end for week 7?
Oh, Zach Ertz, the ultimate catch and fall down guy, but the Panthers really give it up to tight ends, so he might be catching and falling down a lot this week.
All right, Fitz, I'm not sure because you put in the 2 teams that are playing each other, but I don't know which one is you want to stream at defense this week. I think I know. But which one of these two are you actually alluding to?
Oh, sorry about the confusion. I want to start the Bengals against the Cleveland Browns this weekend.
I thought.
Going into week 6, the Bengals were only 31st in defensive fantasy scoring, but they are playing a Browns team that has not scored 20 or more points in a game this season or amassed 300 yards of offense in any of their 6 games. They've produced fewer than 250 yards of offense in 5 of their 6 games. And, oh, by the way, Deshaun Watson right now is on an 88 sack pace.
Wow. Oh, that is...
Wow.
88.
DBRO, what do you got this week for the defense?
We're just going to keep starting every defense against Bo Nix. It's a very nice time.
Yeah, that seems to work out pretty well. Boy, oh boy, that upset special did not work. I thought, Denver at home, they've been rolling. I thought that maybe Denver could sneak in another victory. Nope, they did not. All right, kickers, DBRO, who do you have?
I'm just going to stay look, we have a productive offense, and he's still out there on the waiver wire because people don't like points out of their kickers, apparently. Jason Myers, Seattle. Why is he still out there? And I know Pat's going to go to a familiar name, too, who's a top 5 kicker in fantasy, and he's still out there every week.
Yeah, I don't get that, Pat. Why is Seibert still out there?
This is going to be my 3rd straight week of streaming. 15 field goals in 5 games with the Commanders, and now he has a Week 7 matchup against the Panthers, who are giving up 33.8 points per game this season and have allowed 34 or more points in each of their last 3 games. Seibert looks like a great streaming play yet again.
Seibert, to put some respect on his name, 13.4 fantasy points per game. The kicker 2 in fantasy right now. But he's nobody wants points.
I don't understand. I just don't get it. All right, let's get to the ranks for the waiver wire this week for week 7. And remember, if you need more help, the waiver assistant on My Playbook's there. Sync your leagues for free. Download the app or go to fantasypros.com/myplaybook. That way you can use the waiver assistant to find who is available in all the leagues that you're playing in one spot. And then you can go make all the ads you need. Also, great work being done by the boys here on fantasypros.com too, and the gals as well to help you with all your waiver wire ads. Fitzy, let's get to your top 5 for week 7. What's the rank?
All right, JuJu Smith-Schuster is at the top. I think he's worth a lot of fab this week. Ty Chandler is number 2. Tyrone Tracy is number 3. Maybe cheating a little bit, putting Josh Downs at number 4, but he is under 50% rostered in Yahoo leagues. I know DBRO would much rather have Josh Downs than JuJu, but I disagree with him on that. And 5th, Isaac Guerendo, just in case Jordan Mason isn't ready to go this week. Guerendo would be, any running back starting in a Kyle Shanahan offense. Pretty valuable, and I loved how Isaac Guerendo pleaded with EA Sports not to drop his speed score for intentionally going down short of the goal line this week. So that was a fun moment on Twitter. Cheers, Isaiah Guerendo.
Pat, shame on you. Packers, man. Not putting Christian Watson on the top 5 list. How dare you? How dare you, Pat Fitzmaurice?
Near miss.
Very upsetting. And that's the tough thing. It's like waiver wire ad of the week this week is very much in the eye of the beholder of the roster in front of you and the needs of the roster. It's not just like one glaring guy. It's really, do you want the upside play? Do you want the, maybe what could be the steady JuJu play in a PPR? Do you want the RB depth in Allgeier? It's a lot of ways you can go, or just the quick fix of a guy like Ty Chandler. DBRO, how do you rank him this week for week 7?
So again, to Pat's point, maybe I'm cheating here, but he is worth a mention, and he'd be my top guy if he's out there in any of your leagues because he is below 50%. That would be Josh Downs, my number 1 out of the week. And what has he not shown, guys? He's still producing. I know Joe Flacco got another start, but Anthony Richardson comes back. Everybody else in that passing game is either not playing well or hurt. Josh Downs would be the clear wide receiver 1 right now, so he's my top pickup of the week. Tyrone Tracy is number 2 if he draws a start. Again, this week, JuJu number 3, Ty Chandler 4, Christian Watson 5. And I'll give you even a 6 because, look, if Josh Downs is not out there, then okay, well, then we need a 5th player. It'd be Pop Douglas for me, taking up the last spot.
Pop Douglas and Watson. I like the list. Gentlemen, great stuff as always. Fantastic help for everybody watching and listening here. Don't forget to drop your comments below so you could win the Trophy Smack Golden Toilet Award and give it to your least favorite league member or whoever finishes last, or just put that bad boy on the mantle or make it a Christmas ornament. Do something. It's spectacular. And of course, run to fantasypros.com. Check out all the amazing waiver wire content we have for you on the site and sync your leagues for free at My Playbook and use the waiver assistant as well. That'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For DBRO and Pat Fitzmaurice, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.